And we're live. Welcome to World Junior Ultimate Championships 2018 here in Waterloo. I'm Tushar Singh. I'm joined by Tournament Director Andrew Portwine. We'll be doing commentary on this game. And we have the United States of America versus New Zealand women's. This is 1 seed in the Pool B versus the 3 seed in Pool B. Thank you for joining us here, Andrew. How are you doing today?
Very well, Tushar. Good to be back in the booth with you after a game yesterday with you.
And it was an exciting game yesterday, and we start off to an American poll. United States in blue, New Zealand in white. If you were here yesterday, you already watched the New Zealand women's play against the Netherlands, so you know it's a strong lineup. And the United States always bringing a very strong contingent to whatever World Championships are going to.
It's good to get that out. That was a high stall count. Really needed that last second option.
Halliday with the disc. This is normally she's normally a D-line player for New Zealand. Little, and just out of the hands of Doyle. U.S. now with a chance to start with a break. They had a very active warm-up. It's Bailey, Caroline Tornquist, and just outside of the reach of number 31, Lauren Crothers-Lisk.
I'm interested to see how this game plays out. Just you said 1 versus 3 in the pool. U.S. always strong at these tournaments, every international tournament. I'm curious to see how this 3 seed is going to try and take it to the U.S.
We had a very strong and close game yesterday from New Zealand, who were the 3 seed, against the Netherlands, who are the number 2 seeds. The Netherlands had a come-from-behind victory. This is Svitanovic, the emerging player of the year in New Zealand for the women's division. It's Mance. You're going to hear the name Mance quite a bit. There are 3 Mances on this team. This is the Mance that is not related to the other 2 Mances on the team.
Glad they make that easy for us here in the booth.
Back to Svitanovic. You're going to hear that name as well quite a bit. A long throw to Amelia Mance, but just out of her reach. Amelia Mance, number 27, is one of the 2 twins. Number 24 to also watch out for, Sophie Mance. So we've had a couple of turns from New Zealand now. Very active mark. Wide to Tornquist. In cut by Shigley. Hacko swings it wide. A little bit of a floater. The wind conditions are still the same as yesterday.
Yeah, I was just about to say we have a swirling wind, and you could see that on that swing pass. The wind changes from the near side to the far side of the field.
Anthony Peterson dumps it. The United States running a vertical stack the entire way down the field. And tough pass, just out of the reach for Shigley. Little. You're going to hear this name as well quite a bit. Seems to have recovered from her shoulder injury yesterday. And that is a downwind put. If this game gets tight towards the end, you're going to see a lot of these names out there on the fields again. We're just warming up here as well with our commentary. Try and identify some of the key players for you.
Good gust of wind just picking up now as the U.S. crosses half.
It is definitely not as hot as yesterday, though.
Yeah, much more favorable conditions temperature-wise for these players, maybe not wind-wise. It's good work from the U.S. getting that off the line, getting back out into some midfield play.
And Little with the D.
New Zealand really getting into some high stall counts, looking for their second, third, fourth options.
We saw them moving it a little bit earlier yesterday. Oh, and a miscommunication on the dump there. Long point to start off this game. Wrong picking up the disc. There's a call in the stack, appears to be a foul, or there's actually
an injury, I believe.
Injury.
Yep.
That is tough.
The signals from the game advisors helping us out a little bit.
This is Svitanovic coming off. Svitanovic is one of their top players on New Zealand, so this might be a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, we hope that doesn't linger for the course of the week.
Shigley with the point. United States start with a break. 1-0. And you mentioned the high stall counts for resets for New Zealand. Are you seeing anything particular the U.S. has started out with? I know it's early, but...
I was going to actually comment on the turnover that New Zealand had. Is they were in a lot of high stall counts, and the one time they tried to fast play, the handler wasn't ready for it. It seems like that's out of the norm for that quick play for their handlers as they interplay. So, yes, the U.S. is coming out and putting on some pretty good defensive intensity, but, you know, even with the open swing pass, it wasn't something they'd look to do normally. You know, they want those higher stall counts and look downfield. And
you are, when you're facing the United States, you are facing one of the giants of Ultimate. And there can always be a little bit of nerves coming out against that. You don't know what to anticipate. So perhaps a little bit of nerves. They're just going to shake it out and get back out there. But the U.S. as well, with a few turns on that play, much more confident, but it seemed to be typically on the swings out of that vert stack.
And I'm sure both coaches are going to address that with their team to clean this up a little bit. A few more turnovers that they'd like to see, especially coming out of the gates for your first game here to start off.
Yeah, first game of the day, plenty of energy for everyone. New Zealand players here early to climatize as well, so there shouldn't be any issues that way. Everyone was on the fields early, shuttles running on time, or public transport running on time, Andrew. We'll chat about that a little bit later. This pole looking like it's going OB. And Beth's going to be picking it up. That's Beth Thompson, number 62. You're going to see her picking up the disc quite often as well. There's a side stack set up.
Yeah, this is interesting.
5, no ISO, 1 poach deep from the U.S. side, isolating Zoe Reisner. We saw her in the game yesterday as well. Floaty, 3 New Zealand players underneath. Oh, and that is a turnover.
And that's going upwind. I like the aggressive call. I like to take that shot for the end zone. That might have been a good downwind time to call that.
Phillips with a high stall count reset. Oh, and a great layout grab there. 2 hands, too.
Yeah, that was Aaron McCann. Great hands.
McCann moves it upfield to number 18, Earhart, and then and a D. Thompson to pick it up again. Going back to a vertical stack. Yesterday we saw New Zealand and the Netherlands not hesitating to huck it, just sending those deeps, and a lot of confidence in those throws as well, and the play style.
You can see Thompson took a really slow, deliberate walk over to that disc, letting her team set up.
Trying for the IO break, but number 10, Ella Jonks with the D. It's a pick call.
I love that these players echo the calls with their arm motions, arm movements. Helps us greatly in the booth.
And WFDF has been working on, and when I say WFDF, that's WFDF. We use the short form there for World Flying Disc Federation. They've been working on education for a number of years now, ensuring that the players know most of the rules and a certain percentage know all of the rules. It's knocking on the door now. The second break. Fernandez sends it. Oh, just fingertips to Junks again. So we're going to watch for number 42, Sky Fernandez, as well, because fairly active in that point.
Yeah, she had a beautiful break throw across the field.
And looking at some of these players on the American side, we're seeing that they played on some very high-level teams, like Slow White, Riot. names that might be familiar to players.
Yeah, it's always nice to see the players in this age group playing on such high-level clubs. Getting a good early start to their high-level, high-performance careers.
Back to Earhart. And this time they get it to Youngs.
Yeah, that was a carbon copy of the last one with the catch at the end this time.
And U.S. breaks again. These are not quick points or quick breaks, though. These are long points. New Zealand definitely getting their chances. One thing I'm seeing there is that the New Zealand's not able to get their swing off to the handler. They've been running a 2-5 setup, so 2 handlers, 5 upfield. And as soon as it gets to stall 4-5, they look, but there's excellent coverage, almost making them throw a hardest.
Yeah, I was just going to say the U.S. has done a fantastic job staying in that lane and really taking that away from them, forcing them to go upfield.
And I think we're going to keep seeing a little bit more of that. Lines out there quickly. Coaches are giving a little bit of advice. New Zealand now, though, going downwind, need to score.
And I'll be curious to see if they try that side stack that they tried earlier going upwind where they did have the shot to the end zone. The wind just knocked the disc down on them. Going with the wind here, they may go for that quick strike again. This would be the favorable conditions to go for that quick point.
Yeah, and wind today is quite a bit stronger. This is the wind that we expect at this field, a little bit on the light end of what we expect at this field.
Yeah, you can see that in the pull. It just turned over to half. Typically, that pull would go past the brick mark. Favorable position for New Zealand to start.
Doyle picking it up. Svitanovic back on the field. Looking deep. No options. Stall down.
Yeah, that just furthers the point we talked about, the backfield defense from the U.S. They took away both handler options in the backfield.
Wrong. Coming in Shigley. Tornquist. Just working it up the line here. Anthony Peterson battling for it, but there's a foul call. It's not contested by Halliday. Back to wrong. So great grab by Krugler. And a foul call. Trying to get it to Hecko upfield.
It was a good choice from Krugler not to reach up for that disc. She realized it had a little more pace. It wasn't for her. She easily could have interfered with that pass to the far side.
And wrong sends it to Tornquist. Wrong, all sorts of great movement on this point. We're speaking about number 21, Wrong Pei-Shin, who's a D-line handler, YCC under 17, U20 girls, U20 mixed, and at Franklin High School in Seattle, Washington. We have just seen her working it around with great breaks. And as the U.S. goes up 3-0 with a third break in the game, what's the adjustment New Zealand needs to make?
Going upwind, based on the last time, I would not be trying for the long strikes as they did. I would actually try and switch, if they can, a little bit of fast play. They have a timeout, so they are going to discuss it internally and see if they can iron out some of these kinks. I would actually try a little bit of fast play as they're getting into these high stall counts. We talked about the backfield really being clamped down by the U.S. defenders, so they cannot get those swings off. Get that disc moving and try and get some fast play if they can. Throw the defenders off.
The U.S. is playing a strong team here. If we look at their pool, they've got Netherlands also coming up. What are they going to try now on defense? Are they going to stay person to person, or are they going to move into something a little bit different?
I would think they would stay person to person. I would feel like that's probably more their style, and frankly, if it ain't broke, why fix it? They seem to be cruising along quite well in this game. They are a bit longer points. It's not like they're quick strikes and quick points, but they're cruising along at this point. I feel like they wouldn't want to change anything at this point in the game.
Yeah, especially going with the wind to their backs, the U.S. have the advantage on this point. United States is in Pool B. They're the number 1 seed in Pool B. followed by the Netherlands, New Zealand, Japan, Italy, Mexico, the People's Republic of China. So out of this pool, the top 3 teams will move to a power pool, Pool C, and that'll be a total of 6 teams in Pool C. And from Pool C, the top 4 will move directly into semifinals. So important to finish top 3. New Zealand needs to be in that top 3, and currently they're looking strong. They had a great matchup against the Netherlands yesterday, and they'll probably have some good matches against Japan and Italy later on in this tournament as well. So this one is an important game for them to start to actually tie things together.
Yeah, you need to build that chemistry early so when the critical games do arrive and you get to that game to go for the top 3, get into power pools, you want to be humming like a well-oiled machine.
Fernandez with the pull. And it lands just out of bounds. That was close.
And we talk about that chemistry and playing together as a team. You look at the U.S. roster and big huck goes up. See if this can hook back to the line. Excellent job towing the line.
That is grabbed, it appears right now, by Zoe Reisner.
From my vantage point, I thought she towed the line and held the disc. Clearly, I'm not at field level, but I would call that in.
Well, they're going to be chatting with each other first, and then they can go to the game advisor for input and advice on it. That throw, that was taken directly on the line by Mance. And it's called in. And Zoe sends it deep. Oh, and just out of reach for Amelia Mance, number 27.
I don't want to pass up how great that catch was to tow the line at full extension and make that catch on the sideline, even though we had a call, but that was a wonderful bit of skill.
Just great heads-up play. Back to Fernandez in the middle, moving it wide. And a few options there. Up. Earhart airs it out. And to number 10, Jonks again. That's the connection. And is that 2 or 3 points now in the end zone by Jonks?
It's 2, I believe, and that had to be a missed assignment. She was in wide open green space back there.
Yeah, New Zealand very much on their back foot all the way down the field after that turnover. Just not having the same energy they did yesterday with Netherlands. They need something to get back into this game from an energy perspective. But that catch by Zoe Reisner.
That's amazing. That is hard to just hold the line, even with a nearby catch. She went to full extension, full layout, and towed the line.
Yep, to keep it in bounds. Tough throw as well to catch, considering it floated by just our commentary booth here as well. But the wind helped it back in, so.
I thought I might have had a play on that one, actually, if I just reached a little farther. I do want to go back. We were talking about the teams coming together with their chemistry, and I was looking at the U.S. roster here, and there's a Seattle-heavy feeling. We talked about Franklin High School earlier for one of the players we were highlighting. There are a number of Franklin High School Riot players. They've played together. You can put out a line almost of U.S. players that know each other and play together. It goes a long way in tournaments like this to have that chemistry and to have that familiarity with your teammates.
Absolutely, and if you look at many of these players, like we've mentioned Cornquist before, it's the number 8. She plays on DC Scandal. Like, they're the best club team in the United States. Admittedly, one of the toughest competitions in the world, if not the toughest. But Team New Zealand now playing a little bit of a deeper stack. Little moves it upfield to Halliday.
And New Zealand really going for those large chunk yardage gains on these cuts. They have backed up the stack, looking for 10 and 12, 15 yards at a time.
They have the space as well going downwind. The wind does help them, but there's still higher stall counts. Trope with a disc. Higher stall count there. Phillips sends it deep to a wide open number 15, Tess Johnson, who plays on Slow White, which is one of the best mixed club teams in the U.S.
And that was a nice put to go into the wind from around half field to hit that end zone strike. That is a quality toss.
Fantastic throw. So the U.S. has not started on offense this game. They are up 5-0. And New Zealand with the opportunities, though. These have been drops or just out of reach. They've not necessarily been defensive pressure turnovers or outright Ds, other than perhaps the handler dumps we had earlier this game.
Yeah, there were a couple of Ds on the handler dumps, but New Zealand has had some shots at the end zone, just out of the layout, grabs. They'll convert sooner or later. It's just a matter of time with the quality they have on this roster.
If you have a chance, go back and take a look at the Netherlands-New Zealand game from yesterday. Probably one of the more exciting games that I've watched this year. And it's available on the YouTube channel.
I believe it is. All of our games are being archived through SportsCanada.TV directly to YouTube. If you visit the website, you can find the archive list.
And that'll give you an idea of some of the weather conditions as well that the players will face throughout this week and the heat that they're going to face. Good long pull. Man centers it to Thompson. Goes up to Reisner.
And that's what we just talked about. Just out of the reach on some open throws. You know, for the sake of an extra couple centimeters, you're completing 5 more throws in this game. A couple of them are points.
Krugler pops it up to number 8, Tornquist, and who puts it in the end zone. And I don't quite see who that is, but we'll get you the number as soon as we can. U.S. at 6.
So I'll ask you, Tushar, as a coach, you said the U.S. hasn't started on offense yet this game. How thrilled are you that you can get this kind of production without putting your offense onto the field?
I will say that, especially in the United States and Canada and the United Kingdom as well as Australia, we have seen defensive-heavy teams where the teams have concentrated on playing a grindier style or making sure that they have perhaps 18 players who at any time can step up on defense. And even their O-lines can step up and produce on defense if need be. But their defensive lines have gotten so much better at also playing offense. So you almost have a team that you can confidently put anyone out on an O-line, so to speak, but they will grind through and get the point back if they turn it. So as a coach, I think we want to be cycling through as much as possible. And the production has been great against a high-level team as well. But this is also kind of expected from the U.S.
It is. And the U.S. also brings a very deep roster, number-wise. It's a very full roster, which also gives an advantage over a lot of teams here at the world level.
Mance, to Mance, to Little, to Amelia Mance, to Maya Mance.
The U.S. is really jumping the
Sophie
lanes
Mance.
out at the stack level.
Just a low throw to Little. We have a strike as well. Phillips. And to Yonks.
I feel like that might happen again through the course of the game. I feel like we've said that once or twice already.
Yeah, and New Zealand takes their second time out of the half. And speaking about numbers, as you said earlier, so New Zealand has brought 19 players, which is how many short of the cap?
I believe it's a 28-person roster cap here at the World Championships. And the U.S., if I'm not mistaken, has the full 28 for both men and women. They've brought a full delegation. You know, over the course of a long week with quality competition, high heat, that is sure to help you.
Yeah, you absolutely need that. And I recall a few years ago when I was working on one of the World Beach teams for Canada. Initially, we started off with a slightly shorter roster, and then we tried to fill it out as much as possible just because we knew it would be that long tournament. And this is a long tournament.
It is.
6-day tournament for
7 days for some teams.
Some teams
have the opening showcase Saturday to Saturday.
And who's expected, I think, to get to those semifinal levels if in the women's pools?
Obviously, Canada and U.S. I would expect right off the hop. You know what? I haven't even had a chance to wander around a whole lot to see the quality of play. Seeding-wise, I mean, you have your top seeds. But again, in this division, you do have some turnover. Seeding may not always reflect what's on the field.
And as you said, Canada, the United States expected to get there. Netherlands also looking.
Colombia's had a strong couple of days so far. I've seen the scores.
And we've got a player on Colombia that's in her 4th Worlds.
Yes, 4 World Championships, still playing in U20.
That's amazing. She started playing when she was 11.
I can't fathom that. I really don't have much in the way of words to give that. I just cannot imagine a player getting more than 2 under 20 World Championships. Even 2 is a pretty good bonus to get more than 1. To have 4.
So we are speaking about Manuela here, number 8 on Team Colombia. And this is her 4th World Championship. Probably not going to get a 5th, World Junior Ultimate Championship.
Yes.
In addition to all the other World Championships that she's played.
Yes, playing at the senior level.
Lauren Carruthers-Lisk with the pole.
So let's see if New Zealand can work out some of the kinks. They had their timeout. Coach was giving them a pretty good talking to in the circle.
Horizontal stack.
Yep, coming out, showing a different offense.
Sunny Zhu moves it to number 8, Svitanovic. Centers it back to Hillary Sheridan. And Doyle to Reisner. Reisner with her 3rd huck of the game. And a battle. And
deflection just fell through her hands.
Yeah, just out of the reach of Sunny Zhu.
And truthfully, that should have been probably the 3rd goal for New Zealand this tournament, or this game, pardon me. They've just had a little bit of bad luck, or it's a few centimeters out of the reach.
Yeah, Reisner's been putting them deep. And we have a turn right back in a better position. Emma Doyle to pick up the disc. The downfield is not set up, and there's a pick right away.
So I like that they came out with a different look on offense. You know, we're far enough into this game, they realize their base offense isn't working. They've tried a side stack and a center field stack. They needed to go to something else.
And popping it high. If I may say, that was a little bit of a rushed pickup. The offense was not set, and they could have taken a little bit more time there.
There was an open swing in the middle. I think her intent was to rush to pick it up to center the disc, but the mark did get on and give a strong mark to deny that, and ended up with the pick in the downfield sort of jumble, we'll say.
There's a pick call. So United States is running 5 in the stack with their 3rd handler at the number 1 position. That's Lauren Carruthers-Lisk now with the disc. Tornquist.
You could see the mark. Svitanovic fell down again. I think her ankle is still bothering her from earlier in the game. She's still slow to catch up here on the mark. That's going to be a big issue for New Zealand if that stays through the course of the week.
Timeout called by the U.S. That injury, and that I noticed that as well. Yes, she did when she was shifting. She is certainly favoring that ankle. And
yeah, we saw her come off earlier for an injury. She was back on a point later, but clearly something's not correct with her ankle.
And you have one of the best players in your team. Their ankle's a little bit off. This is not a tight matchup at this point. It could get closer later on in the game.
Well, it may be a good time to let her rest for the remainder of this game and live to battle the rest of the week.
Yeah, we're certainly concerned about the health of players, and it is a coach's call, right? Obviously, we just see certain things from the booth because we concentrate on certain players. But with that short roster, it is always a concern. I was speaking with one of the parents. I was speaking with Farron Halliday's father earlier, and it's a 16-hour flight to Vancouver and then another 5-hour flight to Toronto. So many times if you're going to be going direct, you're looking at least 24 hours of travel, including security, etc.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm amazed about, is seeing the teams from really far-reaching areas, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, these teams making the trek here. It warms my heart, truthfully, to have the world come to Waterloo, but the really far-reaching countries that travel 24 hours to get here.
Absolutely. Australians traveling even longer because of the distance. Vertical stack in the end zone. Reset to the middle. And Abby Hecko puts it wide, but it's a turn. Again, a little bit of a quicker pickup. There was a few strikes under the zoo. Two cutters up line. We saw this earlier. High flying. Battle. Cvitanovic comes down with it.
Yeah, that was a bit of a forced throw to the sideline, but well done coming down with the disc.
And Hillary Sheridan. Break throw wide to a little bit of height with Sunny Zoo. A good box out. And I think number 13, Robin Anthony Peterson, comes down with it.
Yeah, with a little authority too. Not batting it away, but grabbing that disc.
Looking to wrong in the middle. Break. Back to the Anthony Peterson. Pick call.
Downfield. Can still see Cvitanovic is really laboring to keep up on defense. You know, if I'm the U.S., you need to see those types of mismatches and maybe start to isolate. You know, I don't want to be cruel, but, you know, when you're playing to win, world championship level, you need to take advantage of some of these things that you observe on the field from your opponent.
Absolutely fair to call. And yesterday, their last game of the day was a tough matchup. It was a long game. So players could still be hurting from that. Hecko looking to the middle. Back to wrong. And there's a turnover. Miscommunication there.
Yeah, I think the upline cut was just truncated, assuming that throw wasn't for them.
Back to Thompson. Zoe Reisner. And they're sending it deep. Cvitanovic, options in the end zone, but they need to be setting up.
Yeah, she has great hands. That's 2 this point she's come down with on those high balls.
Thompson in the middle. Vertstack now. Cvitanovic going wide, just working. 2 cuts there, not comfortable with the throw. There needs to be more motion from New Zealand in the stack. Pick in the end zone.
Yeah, there's not a lot of movement of any type in the end zone at all, offense, defense.
And New Zealand is exhausted right now on that point. They've been running quite a bit. We spoke about, we'll speak about it after this point. And floating it out to space. Reisner coming down. It was a tie, and they're going to have a quick chat about this. And it's a point.
That was a nice throw to actually cut that disc so that it cuts back into the receiver. Gave her a chance to go up and get that.
And that was Shigley battling for that. It's a quick conversation. New Zealand gets that point upwind. We were speaking about the conditioning and whether Cvitanovic might have been hurt, but that turnover that happened far down on the New Zealand end zone, right after that, Cvitanovic sprinted halfway down the field and was wide open. So I think some of the comments we're making here might be with the conditioning that we as Masters players have, perhaps, rather than the juniors.
Well, that also might be a Masters thing, is where you pick and choose when you want to run. You fake hurt for a little while.
Exactly. You use you improve your efficiency as you improve, and we've seen that as well in other sports. There was recent conversations about how soccer players, football players, and in other sports, basketball, for instance, many of the top players will not move as much, but will know when to use their energy.
The one thing I do want to point out that I saw from the handler specifically on New Zealand going into the win for that last point, they were using more fakes. They were trying to move that mark, and they swung the disc a lot more successfully that time, and it converted to a goal.
Zone with Wall, so 4 in the zone. Coming out to Trupp.
Excellent movement from the U.S. all the way across field with a big gainer on this near sideline.
Johnson dumps it to number 23, Campana. A very tight cup right now. Back to Campana for the point and just moving all the way upfield to take half, 8-2. At least I believe it's halftime now, if we've been keeping score correctly.
That's your job too, Cheryl. I'll trust that you're doing the job. Just want to say that last with the zone being thrown on, Rachel Hess, she was getting every other disc up the sideline. That was good patience, good control of the play.
Absolutely. We are heading into halftime now, so before we take a break, we're going to thank our sponsors here at the field number 1, the Cut Camp Field. Thanks to Competitive Ultimate Training, that's Cut, Discraft, VC Ultimate, Greatest Ultimate Bag, Universe Point Cleats, and
a thank you to Minute School for helping make this broadcast possible, sponsoring this particular portion of the tournament. It's great. Lets all the parents and all the friends back home really connect with these teams, and that's a vital part of this tournament.
Well, we'll be back after this break. Thank you for tuning in, and see you soon. All right, and we're coming back to that second half now. United States of America versus New Zealand. U.S. is number 1 seed in their pool, 2nd overall at the tournament. New Zealand is number 3 seed in their pool, and if I do that correctly, number 6 seed overall in the tournament.
I believe that's correct. How often do you say USA is a number 2 seed in a tournament?
And we've spoken about this earlier as well, though, but the seeding is not necessarily consistent, or they kind of, especially the juniors level, when players are developing, as you said, usually they're lucky to get 2 of these World Junior Championships. In some cases, as we've seen with spectacular talents, like from Colombia, they get 4. But it seems like they're starting to play it sooner and sooner, and especially on the American side, there's something that we were chatting about in our break, which was the representation of the West Coast on this U.S. team.
Yeah, very Seattle heavy, a variety of clubs, but Franklin High School is the common thread for a lot of these players, a few other clubs. We also see a California Happy Cows youth club team. There's a few members from there as well. So you have your California, your Seattle on the West Coast, and we have a sprinkling along the East Coast as well, but not nearly that concentration that we're seeing.
Yeah, and we've definitely seen it with the Seattle Youth League, just the concentration of players, the hundreds and hundreds of players there that are constantly playing. We see that in Vancouver as well. Vancouver is very heavy on that same side.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say that corridor from Seattle to Vancouver could be the world's greatest hotbed of ultimate. Just phenomenal, the youth development and the growth, and they transitioned to very strong adult clubs out of both of those cities.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what we're doing here in central or eastern Canada.
We have winter.
We have winter, yes.
we lose some practice months.
I was more along the lines of thinking of why aren't we moving out west so we can get more ultimate in, but speaking from that side, the youth development is quite pervasive throughout the Canada, and in the United States, over the last, I would say, half decade, there has been an emphasis from the USA Ultimate side as well to develop youth ultimate, a concentration on growing that side of the member base, rather than focusing all their energies on just the adult club side as was previously happening. And certainly a mix, but more development on the youth side. New Zealand pulls for the second half, starting off on D.
And that's a good strong pull to the brick mark.
An immediate turnover just out of reach for number 43, Clara Stewart.
This is the opening New Zealand needs. They truly need to get some of their mojo back and punch this in.
Thompson Reisner puts it directly into the end zone, and coming down hard with is Tessa Buchanan, number 9. That Zoe throw she's been making every single time she catches it, looking at deep. And number 16, you can see her in the front of your frame, getting that hug now. Finally, that working out, and New Zealand coming out with a break to start the second half.
And that's exactly what they needed. They were falling a little bit behind on the scoreboard. I'm sure the coach told them, motivated them, we need to get going, get the engine revved up. Perfect way to come out of the half.
You can see some of that energy in the body language of the players. We speak so much about that, the consistency and how do you get the sideline involved. And from the U.S. side, that was, one small error perhaps that did result in a point, but something that they need to dial in because they can't have that against some of the other teams here at the tournament when they've got those close matchups, when the defensive pressure will be that much higher.
It'll be important to see how they perform now on this upcoming point. They're going into the win. They just came off of a turnover, like you said. They've got to clean that up.
Svitanovic with the pull. Horizontal stack from the USA. Wide open in the middle, number 37, Trope.
Blown assignment. That took a good 15 seconds to even get the mark on to start the count. Clearly miscommunication.
And Stewart puts it in the end zone to Stacy Gaskill from the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities.
And we just talked about the U.S. cleaning up. That was clinical. That was really clinical offense all the way up the field. Make no mistake about who was in charge on that point.
No, absolutely not. New Zealand needs to clean up that blown coverage. Perhaps a little bit of excitement, but...
And that was early on in the point. I think that might have been a double call on the line. 2 players taking the same person across.
USA leads 9-2. They've had 7 breaks in this game. New Zealand started off that second half with the 1 break. And the U.S., though, seems to have dialed it in now, at least on that O-line.
Yeah, that was absolutely clinical offense. Right from the pickup, that pull was spotted very well from New Zealand, but right from the pickup, centered the disc, got everything flowing up the field. I wanted to comment actually about how quality that New Zealand pull was. I thought, hey, that's great. It's going to pin the U.S. on the line. It stayed in about 2 feet in from the sideline, half a meter for the metric folks, but U.S. just really on the ball.
Jenner Krugler with the pull. Thompson going to take it in the air to Mintz. Looking at Little. And just out of reach. And number 24, Hecko, moves it to the sideline. We see Tornquist. And then the reset coming out of the middle of the field is Krugler. Burt Stack in the end zone.
U.S. really content to reset and wait for that perfect opportunity. And there it is.
And under pressure from Little, but number 9, Bailey Schigel, catches it. Or sorry, I apologize, Shigley. Number 9, Bailey Shigley for the point from Abby Hecko. Hecko plays on Seattle Underground and previously with Seattle Bankroll, which is a YCC team.
It's a great name. Bankroll, it sounds like a club I'd like to play for.
Perhaps if you were far younger, maybe another lifetime, Andrew.
Yes. It's nice to talk about these youth clubs. I mean, I am getting into the Grandmasters division, and there just wasn't the youth opportunity when I was growing up. And I see the available opportunities for these youth playing now, whether it's in your high school system, an actual competitive youth club. And it's wonderful to see the sport growing and the coaches dedicating their time to really give these youth a chance to flourish to this level.
And we've mentioned some of these youth teams previously. So YCC is the Youth Club Championships in the United States. You've probably heard of the USAU Club Championships, but YCC is the big one that happens there. That finished up just a few weeks ago. And once again, you can guarantee that. Zoe Reisner. This one to Svetanovich right outside.
It's a good choice to reset. She had an opportunity to force it into the end zone. Much better choice.
High stall count for Sheridan. And then grabbed by number 52, Bridget Forsythe. And the role for Reisner definitely seems to be making those powerful cuts, grabbing it, and then sending it deep. And if they can just get that timing refined a little bit more, it'll be 100%. But the last few throws that she's made, it has been 100%. It was earlier in the game where they didn't have the timing.
Yeah, and it's nice to see New Zealand is, I'll say corrected, but reeled in those throws, that extra few centimeters, taking a little power off. Now they're converting some goals. This was more what I was expecting from the start of the game, and more evenly played game, goals for both teams.
And sometimes first game of the day takes a little bit of time to get your legs under you and be making those powerful cuts. The United States, though, not seem to have any issue with that. Perhaps a longer line warm-up, perhaps different systems, but they'll definitely also have more energy overall on their team considering their larger roster.
Yeah, and there may be some, I'll say, intimidation factor when you are playing the U.S. and Canada probably as well. When you see them on the other side of the field, it can be intimidating knowing you're playing the 1 or 2 seed basically in the world at a tournament.
And as we mentioned, the U.S. and Canada.
Big put downfield.
And Gaskill with the point. As I was saying, the United States and Canada have deep pools to pull from. U.S., we've spoken about the youth program. Canada, quite extensive in all of the major cities. Starting to develop in some of the smaller ones. But when you can pull from perhaps tens of thousands of youth players, that tends to bring a much higher quality team. That said, you can, as a country, a smaller country, a smaller ultimate program, you can put together teams that can heavily challenge. And we've seen that with developing countries, developing ultimate countries, challenging for those top spots.
I've been speaking about that with some of my colleagues around the tournament this weekend, and Colombia is the team that keeps coming to mind. In the last 5 years, 7 years, they've really put themselves on the ultimate map on a global level, the women's division specifically. And I really would like to actually approach the team and just see how they've done that through their youth program and how they're developing their players, because it really has been a very quick turnaround from being sort of in the middle of the pack globally and now being contending for medals at every tournament.
And we saw that as well with the under-23 Italian men's team, where they finished second, gave the U.S. a lot of trouble as well. Zoe Reisner with a disc. Not a deep throw this time, but to Mance. Oh, and just out of reach for Sheridan. Wrong. Now to the disc. Anthony Peterson looking for Hecko. Crothers Lisk. Tornquist sends it up. A little bit of challenge and a little bump there. Krugler down with the point. They definitely should check that out just a little bit. Take their time. It is being called as a point. And she's getting up. It's great to see, but I'm sure the trainers will be out there.
Maybe just a Charlie horse. It looks like maybe a knee to the calf. Hopefully just a little bit of roll out.
Yeah, but they will keep an eye on that. The U.S. with a break there, making it 11-3, 12-3. I missed writing a point on there earlier.
So you brought up the Italian men's program. Just a little programming note. Later in the week, our showcase game in the evening will be Canada versus Italy in the men's division. So you can tune in for that. I want to say Wednesday night. We will have a late game.
It's going to be an exciting matchup at that point. The Italian program as well, they've concentrated a little bit in northern Italy out of Bologna. So quite a bit of the teams coming, or players coming out of there. A few players from Rimini and other parts of Italy, but definitely a heavy concentration with the program in Bologna. This pole sailing, landing just inbounds. Thompson centers it to Mance, looking for Little.
Excellent throw.
Little puts it deep. Stacy or Sunny Zhu needs to reset it, sends it over the top to Halliday. Or is that Halliday?
I'm afraid it'll take a few minutes to untangle that hug, find the number. But that first throw, what a throw to break that mark, and then straight into a huck.
That was a gutsy throw there into the end zone. Actually, the point there by number 3, Georgia Taylor.
I That was an entertaining point. I think that was my favorite of the game, just from an entertainment point of view. Wonderful bit of skill, but just great action.
They definitely got that connection there in the middle. One difference we're also seeing from a setup perspective, the U.S. resets from the front of the stack, and while they do look at some options going a little bit deep, they get quick resets off the vert stack from the front. The New Zealand is almost burning a few other extra stall counts, letting cuts from the back develop. That might be something they want to look at because they're getting higher stall count resets as a result of that.
And when the U.S. does have the disc, they're able to reset almost at will. If you watch the New Zealand defenders, they overcommit to stop the upline and upfield cuts from the backfield, leaving that reset for the U.S. handlers. They're really, really protecting the upfield gains.
Oh, and just a little bit too close to the sideline, and perhaps not enough spin on that. Bounces out of Rachel Hess's hands.
Yeah, I think you nailed that one correctly. It almost looked like a push pass that had no spin. The wind just got that one.
And the wind we're seeing here today, players are going to see that all week. They need to understand that yesterday was an anomaly. Here you'll either get very hot temperatures, as Vitanovic puts it in the end zone just out of Reisner's reach, or you're going to see a lot of wind and perhaps a little bit of rain. And as a tournament director, you've got an interesting situation potentially developing for tomorrow.
I do. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Yeah, our forecast does have some lightning potential.
A wide open deep is number 27. Sorry, I'll get that number right later. 37, Trope, who got most of the gain on that point as the U.S. now lead 13-4.
You can see a couple of the New Zealand players, they bent over, hands on their knees. I think the fatigue is starting to hit them now. That point's the first one where I've really seen them bending over, showing that fatigue.
Yeah, there are players here playing practically 2 points and then having a break. And that does take a lot out of you, especially when you're running full field, back and forth. You have points with turnovers, having to change directions with the U.S. as well. It puts a lot of pressure. We definitely also see on the U.S. side that the players are perhaps a little bit older and more mature, physically bigger presences than on the New Zealand side. New Zealand, we're seeing a lot of players who are 16 years of age. Definitely a few players you will see that are older, but for example, Bridget Forsyth, number 52 on the New Zealand side, is 15 years old. And then you contrast that with some of the players where you can see that they are taller, faster perhaps, but Zoe Reisner is 19 and at Victoria University in Wellington. Battle in the air there, deep. And Lauren Carruthers-List coming ahead on that one. In the middle, but just bounce off the hands. Wrong. Looking to center it and looks off an upfield cut. Hecko moves it forward and into the end zone for number 8, Tornquist. And that throw from number 31, Carruthers-List.
Krugler was making deep strike after deep strike, opening up the field for that entire play. She isn't on the score sheet, but should get some credit for really opening the field and making that happen for the U.S. team.
And that is now 14-4.
So you touched on it briefly, Tushar, just as a tournament director with the weather forecast and knowing Cincinnati had a little bit of poor weather. I just wanted to say, yes, we're monitoring. We may have some lightning in the morning tomorrow. But for those that aren't familiar with the venue and parents are watching, there is a giant field house here only about 80 to 100 meters away. it can hold all of these athletes. We will get them off the fields if necessary, and they do have cover here and some great amenities to pass the half hour to an hour that we're projected to have rain and lightning. So,
absolutely. Player safety, always the number one thing on our mind. And I can say as a youth, I have did some dumb things when there were lightning storms out there. Now, as perhaps someone who's much older, taking things like lightning much more seriously. And it's good to know that there's plans, but this is part of what the national organizations, the club systems, WFDF provides, including the concussion protocols as well, which are an important aspect of what we're doing in this game. Thompson centers it to Sheridan. Reisner being isolated, but well covered on a switch. Hammer to Little. Looking deep to Mintz, not seeing an option. And a call there, Svetanovich calling foul on Shigley.
Yeah, running through the shoulder, I think, to get to that D.
The U.S. with a very smart defensive coverage there to isolate and prevent Reisner from getting the disc.
Excellent job from our game advisor, too, to get the game moving quickly.
Svetanovich sends it wide. Mance did not have an idea that was coming there. Svetanovich recognizing that she might not have the same chemistry today that she did yesterday when they were playing the Netherlands.
And I believe that same combination had a missed throw really early in the game, but some sideline help to call that up would have alerted the striker and probably could have had a catch.
Shigley looking for a reset. Strong cut there from Hecko, and then a throw to number 88, Phillips. And keeping it alive, Hecko.
Yeah, excellent skill.
Krugler seals the game with a final point to Anthony Peterson, and that's 15-4. The U.S. coming out on top over New Zealand.
U.S. is a juggernaut. We expect them to put 15 most games on the board. New Zealand, I will feel that they think they underperformed. Their second half was much better, and I expect that New Zealand will want to have 9, 10, 11 to challenge the U.S. if they were to play again in a future game. Just not their day today, truthfully.
Yeah, tough matchup. The U.S. starting out very strong. First half, 8-1. With 7 breaks in that first half. Second half moved along fairly quickly, but New Zealand starting off with a break and finishing up with 4 on the board. But United States looking strong for this tournament, and a great game for them overall.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I think there was only the one obvious mistake that led to the break coming out of half for New Zealand. Otherwise, they looked pretty good. Defense, offense, the whole game. Coach probably doesn't have too much to worry about.
Not at all. New Zealand still has another game to play today, I believe. They will need to focus in on that because they need to get into the top 3 to move to the power pool, where we're going to see some great battles. We're going to see matchups between the two pools as well. We're going to see Canada, the United States face off. We're going to see those crossover games at that point. So exciting and lots of opportunity still for these teams in this tournament.
Yeah, the rest of the week is going to be full of great matches. We're broadcasting every game all week here from the Cut Camp Showcase Field, so you have lots of opportunity to see some great ultimate.
Thank you to the viewers at home. Thank you also to the volunteers at this tournament. Very important to have them here. We're looking at thanking our sponsors as well now, so thanks to Cut Camp, Universe Point, Discraft, VC Ultimate, the Greatest Ultimate Bag, and from the showcase field here, Tushar Singh and Andrew Portwine signing off.